First item is roll call. Diane?
Mayor Skoog.
Present.
Councilmember Anderson.
Here.
Councilmember Grossman.
I'm here.
Councilmember Mallory is absent this evening, and so is Councilmember Nye. Councilmember Whiting.
Here.
And Councilmember Rooney. Here. We have a quorum there.
Thank you, Diane. Okay, item number 3, discussion, Viewpoint Channel Phase 3. Norm?
Yeah, good evening, Mayor, Council. I guess it's with pleasure to talk about this particular project because this may look a little familiar because this has been a long-term 4-year project for the viewpoint channelization. Actually, this is Phase 3 that you have before you. So just a little background. 4 years ago, we actually started the design, got the design in place, applied for flood control district funding, and actually have completed phases 1 and 2. So with Phase 3, we've started to turn the corner. You can actually see the channel taking shape, and a lot of the other amenities we have on this particular project really starting to take shape, and you can see where we've been and where we're going. So it's nice to see Phase 3 come into play. This exhibit's the same one we've used for many years, and one thing that's nice to show is our current viewpoint spouse intersection has significant drainage improvements. We're currently finished all the right-of-way acquisition, but the drainage improvements that you see as part of the spouse viewpoint improvements will tie into this particular improvement when we move forward with construction. So other significant improvements as part of spouse viewpoint will tie into this particular project. I always like to point out the project sign. Yavapai County Flood Control District funding has funded all of the particular improvements throughout the 4 phases in addition through design. What's interesting about this particular sign, it hasn't changed much. We actually just changed the 2 to a 3. So same project sign we've used. When you get that momentum going, you can even use the same project sign. Interesting enough, we sent this out for contractor bid, and Earth Resources, who actually did Phase 2, is the Phase 3 contractor, the low bid. So actually, we haven't even changed the sign from the contractor. Of course, the design engineer and line engineering is still on board. When we're talking about the design engineers, part of the council action you have tonight is award for construction and also for construction period services. You'll see we have 2 engineers on board. The reason for that, if council may recall, the channel project actually is designed by line engineering, but the dirt from the excavation goes on north of Manley for the viewpoint roadway that's similar to last year's project. Dave and Associates did that design. So actually it leaves one design and goes to another. So keep in mind with a lot of the particular improvements that in place, the dirt has to leave off-site. But the nice thing is it goes to a closed site and it's part of the viewpoint roadway that we anticipate starting next year. You can take the dirt, which saves significant economy when you can take the dirt close by and build road grade for the future roadways. So that's why you're seeing 2 engineers. Getting back to the construction contract, we did have great competition, had 6 contractors bid. As I mentioned, local contractor Earth Resources, who has been getting quite a bit of the town work lately, always on time and on budget, so real confident with their bid and have them move forward with the particular construction. The other thing I'd like to point out, we bid this project when we do our yearly capital improvements in public works. We'd like to save these particular projects with dirt digging. If you don't have any asphalt, temperatures aren't quite as critical, so we've kind of saved this project out anticipating a winter type of construction period. Well, I don't know if we're getting a winter this year. So interesting was that's why we saved this project out. If we anticipate the contract will start about mid-January, done about April. Just rolling back, comparing contrast to Phase 2 last year. We started Phase 2 last year about this time, but we actually got delayed 2 months because of all the wet winter we had last year. Not particularly a big deal. We worked when we could, but last year's project we actually delayed by 2 months, and this year we got nothing but great weather. So we look forward to the contractor starting to work. This particular exhibit I like to show. This one gives me goosebumps. This is the phases 1 and 2, what the channel actually looks like. This is what the drone technology can show you these days. So this is a drone photo that line engineering took, and you're looking at phases 1 and 2. You look in the foreground there, the 7 60-inch diameter pipes underneath Manley. It was Phase 1. So this is Phase 1 and 2 in place, and that's what you see if you're looking from a drone. So that's a drone photograph.
Manley down?
No, this is actually looking basically from Custer north. So yes, you're looking, at Spouse, looking north. That's what is taking place. So you'll see the project take off from where it left off here and move towards Spouse through Custer. About $800,000 worth of work. So that's what things are going to look like. We are anticipating finishing this project. I don't know if I mentioned yet, but actually the total 4 phases of this project between design and the 3 phases is $1.9 million we're going to spend on that channel to stop just short of spouse. So we do appreciate the flood control district funding, which is a good use of the flood control dollars is stormwater management project, as you see before you. Last we got up here is here's our typical public notice that we hand out to area residents, but they're well aware of the project. But as always, we like to stay in close touch with the residents to tell them what they can expect for the construction and construction timeline. But when we're done with this particular channel, a very good improvement that'll dovetail into the spouse viewpoint improvements and be a significant improvement for stormwater management along the viewpoint corridor. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have about the project.
Questions, anyone?
Mr. Mayor, if I could, are you over your goosebumps yet?
Oh, getting there.
Yeah,
Until
okay.
the last phase is done.
With that in mind, could you share with council when you anticipate going out to bid for the dirt moving and paving from Manly up to Roundup?
That's currently under design by Dave & Associates. We anticipate we've got money in this year's budget, so if we can get things rolling, we can move forward with that 2-lane road and moving some of the dirt.
And when would you guess cars will be able to drive that route?
Give it 6 or 9 months. I would anticipate this time next year, all goes well, we'll be actually have that improvement complete. With the viewpoint spouse, we're finishing the right-of-way negotiations and acquisition now. But yes, to Larry's point, the dirt from here that's being moved to viewpoint, we're going to have money in this year's budget, and the design will be done about mid-February, March, so we can send that out for bid here in the next 60, 90 days.
Good. Marty?
Yeah, I just got a quick question. That notice that that you sent out to all the residents nearby, is a copy of that available on the website?
I guess it can be. Typically, we don't. It's just really for affected area residents.
Well, because I know I'm going to get questions from my neighbors and everything, and if I have a place to refer them to.
Okay. Yeah, anytime. We're happy to. But if we can put it on the website if that's what you desire.
Yeah, that would be very helpful. Thank you.
Rick? Anyone else? Jody?
Norm, I appreciate these types of projects are really important for the residents of the town. Just from my information, when we shift that dirt over to the state land section, is there permitting required with that?
Yes, there's a long process to get the permitting in. Yes, we've been through that long process. So actually the right-of-way for Viewpoint was actually acquired from state land in 2001. Part of what we did with the FEMA and staying in touch with state land was we have been through the process in the earlier phases that they gave us permission in order to move the dirt, even though we've had the right-of-way since 2001. So yes, we've got the permission.
But any other questions? Mike? No? No, thanks. Norm?
With that,
can you bring it back to us for next week?
we would love to get it awarded and get the contractor started. Thank you, Mayor, Council.
Bring her back. No, okay, we move on to number 4. Discussion, change order for Victorian Estates Waterline construction. Neil, you are up. Our signal, by the way, is not working here. Can you do anything with that, Diane? So far, no signal.
You might have to sit down here and look up that way,
I think you can explain it to us. Mark, good to see you.
All right, well, do you just want me to proceed ahead, or because there's
Yes.
pictures and all kinds of good stuff to look at, and does it show up on your monitors or anything? No.
I think we can understand this one, Neil.
I don't know.
All right, well, I can talk my way through this one, and then if you can work a miracle and get it up and running, I can show you some quick pictures as well, because it really helps to understand. And so what we're talking about tonight is the final contract change order, and it's actually 3 different change orders for the Victorian Estates Waterline project that we started back in May of last year. And we originally awarded that project for about $433,000, and we had budget money last year and budget money this year to cover that project. And now we're done with the project, and we've got 3 change orders totaling right around $43,000 worth. And so I wanted to talk about those a little bit because it's a little bit more of a higher dollar amount than we normally like to see in terms of change orders on a project. It is at 10% of the project, which is okay, but more than we like to see. So I wanted to explain to you the majority of the cost of those change orders comes from 2 different things that happened during the project. One of them was closer to the beginning of the project. We had originally designed it to where we were going to bore underneath the driveway entrance going into Victorian Estates. That way we wouldn't affect the residents. We wouldn't have to do road replacement, landscape replacement, or anything like that. We wouldn't have to do any traffic control off of Highway 69, which is an ADOT right-of-way. But the boring contractor actually hit some very large rock under there, and I think it broke one of his bits, and he was unable to complete the boring operation. So one of these changes, which is about $20,000 of the $43,000, is to demobilize the boring operation and have them come in and do an open cut trench across there, which meant then we had to replace the road surface. We had to replace Victorian Estates landscaping. We had to do a nighttime operation so we didn't affect their ingress and egress. And we also lost a few days there. We had to make a modification to the ADOT permit to do traffic control and stuff, even for the nighttime shutdown. So there was a bunch of work in that, and additional days required by the contractor to get all that coordinated and such. So that was about a $20,000 change that we're talking about. The second major issue that we ran across, down off of Rose Creek, there's a wash crossing there, and there was a concrete low water crossing that was installed by the county for those residents to access through that location. And as we got into construction, we found that there was an existing water line that's owned by Diamond Valley for their water system that was in a location that didn't allow us to not damage the low water crossing, and in fact we ended up just taking the whole thing out. Originally, where the plan showed the water line, it was going to be far enough away from the low water crossing that we were going to be able to dig right through there without hitting either one of the 2, but that didn't happen. And so we ended up tearing out the low water crossing, and if you'll recall, is that up and running? No. Okay. No. It's not working. If you'll recall, during this past summer, we had some pretty significant storm events, and a couple of them hit that area right over there, Rose Creek, Diamond Valley, in that area. And so that was right in the middle of our construction, and we had to maintain that crossing so that the residents who were on the opposite side of the creek could get back and forth across that thing on a daily basis, because there are some homes back in there. I think there was 3 or 4 homes that were needing that. And so through those several big storm events we had to go back in and put in more rock and material and dress it back out again temporarily so that they could get across until we were able to complete the project. And then we went back in and reconstructed a new concrete low water crossing for the residents. And that also is another about $20,000 between the cost of the concrete low water crossing plus all of the labor and rock material and stuff to dress up that low water crossing before we were able to finalize it. And so that's really the bulk of the change order on this project. One thing that's just kind of interesting is that if you look at the 4 bids that we got for this project, the second low bid was up right around. The second low bid was $588,000. So our bid that we awarded was $430,000. So even with this $43,000 change order we're talking about, we're still well under where we would have been for the second low bid. So Are we? Oh, no.
No, we're talking about this screen.
This one here, they don't have it. I told them they could come sit out here, but they didn't want to. So, anyways, I think with that, that addresses all of the issues. I had some really nice pictures to show you of the storm events and all the little, but anyways, we can do that. Maybe we can do that next week at the regular council meeting. So, with that, I'll take any questions you might have.
Questions, anyone? Mike?
I guess you don't have a crystal ball then. You couldn't foresee
I do have one, but
these
it's
things.
right here. You can't see it.
But I think it's pretty common to change orders. That's what the rationale for those are, is unforeseen circumstances that you can accommodate when it occurs. So, no, I think we're lucky just to see 40,000 in change orders and not anymore. So,
I think we can understand it. Jody? No. Any other questions?
It's on.
Oh, there it lit up. Can you believe that?
Just hold your tongue that way the whole time.
Good job.
Is it on?
Yeah, it's on.
Okay, so I'll just run through this real quick just so you can see, and then you can say you saw it. Uh-oh.
It just quit, Ryan.
I shouldn't have touched that.
You got to hold your mouth just right.
it's those fillings. There it is.
You have like a damaged wire down
Don't
there?
breathe heavy.
We got to reset it to
Ryan, that's feeding from the channel. It won't feed from the laptop.
Neil, it's showing you on there, not your project.
Oh,
But it's a nice picture.
all right. Well,
We had it for a second.
That's
We-
because I switched it.
That's all right.
that's all right. We don't have to worry.
We'll see you next time.
Next week.
Next week. Okay, good.
Roger, there it is. Feeling. Oh, there it is.
That's the channel.
there for a second.
We'll, is it okay if Neil brings it back to us next week?
Yes.
Bring her back, Neil.
Okay.
Good job, by the way.
Thank you.
Okay, we go on to number 5, discussion of CH2M out-of-scope agreement. You going to do that, or is Mark going to do it?
I've got all three of these.
You're going to do all three, okay.
But this one would have been really nice to do with a PowerPoint presentation. That's all right. Okay, so every year we typically do an out-of-scope project with CH2M Hill, and it's for doing things at the treatment plant or, at some of our lift stations or in the water system that might be a little bit more specialized or need a lot of coordination by them. Or so they can see that? Okay, let's try that.
There you go.
And then sometimes we just bundle a bunch of smaller projects that we need, either their help with or whatever, just to get it going. And so this is one of those types of projects. And what we're looking at doing this year is, like I said, bundling a number of projects. We've got 4 projects on the wastewater side and 3 on the water side. We're going to put a pond over a cover over the top of the effluent pond. And we're going to install some electrical disconnect switches on our reuse pumps, put in new dissolved oxygen probes and controllers, upgrade our SCADA servers. And as you can read, we're doing chlorine shutoff valves, chlorine scales, and improvements at the Long Mesa building. So real quickly, just so you get an idea, we're going to put a cover over the top of the pond. It prevents algae growth and makes it much easier to take care of that pond. The cost with buying the materials and installing it, the bulk of this cost is actually the cost of the cover. It's kind of like a big pool cover. You put it over the top. We're going to need like 3 or 4 of them to go across. About $8,000 for that. The reuse pumps, we don't have electrical disconnect switches located close to the pump so that when we have to do maintenance on them, you have to go through a lockout tagout procedure. We can't do that, so we need to install them. So they'll be installed adjacent to each pump. It's just a little, like a shut-off switch. So the cost of that is about $3,000. We are buying new dissolved oxygen probes. On that picture, the long handle that you see actually goes to the probe, which is down in the water, but the box right next to the top of the hand railing is a little controller. So we've already purchased that equipment. They're just going to take out the old ones and install the new ones for us. That cost is $890. This will be the big one, and actually the next item on your agenda, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the equipment purchase for this, because we are purchasing the SCADA equipment separately, but through this out-of-scope services agreement, we're going to have OMI do the contracting and subcontracting to do the installation and the programming and everything that's needed for the SCADA servers. So they're going to be doing the software installation, hardware installation, taking all of our data that's on our systems and transferring it over to the new SCADA servers. And the cost of this is, for them to do all of that work, is about $26,000. And I was just wanted to show you, so our SCADA system, this isn't it, but this is similar to what ours might look like. So when we look at the computer screen, we see the plant, we see, what everything is doing. And so you can imagine these computers, they're not just like a normal laptop computer or, desktop computer that you might go down and buy from the Best Buy for $1,000. Actually, and I'm going to get into the computer, the equipment cost a little bit later, but each computer server, and we're buying 2 of them, each one is $6,000. That's the equipment side of it. But then to load the software on and, make the system work with our special programming, that's where they've got to go in. That's where the $26,000 comes from on their end. There's multiple benefits that are going to come from this upgrade, and we've been through a number of upgrades of the software, and we have not upgraded our equipment. So the manufacturer, like with Windows, when they go through Windows 9, Windows 10, Windows 11, well, it's been a number of versions since we've upgraded our equipment to keep up with the software. And so some of the benefits, not only in having the newer equipment, is that it'll be newer. Obviously, it'll be more powerful. We'll be able to take advantage of the cloud for data storage. Also, when we have to do programming changes we add something to the plant or we change something, and we need to change our SCADA to reflect that. Currently, we have to not only reprogram the computers that are in the office there, but we have to go out to the remote sites where we're getting the information from and do similar programming out there. So there's more labor involved. With the current system that we're going to be buying here, all we have to do is make the changes on the servers in the office, and it actually broadcasts those changes out to the remote sites automatically, so we don't have to do that anymore. So we're not concerned about making sure that they did all the programming in the field correctly to match what they did back at the office. Everything is automatic. So those are some of the benefits that we'll see. And so, as I mentioned, so that one's the labor and the installation and all that, that's about $26,000. And then getting into the water side of things, the last number of years we have been purchasing the emergency chlorine shutoff valves, the ePro system, and we have 2 locations left where we need to install these. So what happens is if there's a chlorine leak, these valves, it senses the chlorine. These valves automatically shut the cylinder down so that it takes care of the problem. And so in this project, CHLORINE Hill will be buying. They're actually going to be buying three of the shutoff valves, even though we only needed 2 locations. They're buying 3 of the valves, and then we're going to have to do the electrical to install them and integrate that into SCADA, and so the cost of this is $43,000. Of this, the equipment cost is about $30,000. Each one of those shutoff valves runs somewhere between $10,000 and $12,000 a piece. The reason that they're buying 3 of them instead of just 2 is because of the next item, which is dual chlorine scales. So we're changing it at one of our locations. We're changing over from a single cylinder chlorine to a dual cylinder chlorine scale. And we're going to need a second shutoff valve for the chlorine for that. So that's the last one. And on this one, the reason that we're buying the dual scale is because what happens with chlorine is, you're using it, right? And then at some point it runs out of chlorine. And our guys have to go out there and they have to bring another cylinder out. They have to swap them out. Well, on the Santa Fe well, it's one of our more used locations. We found that because of the timing for changing those things out, they don't want to change them out in the middle of the night when they run out, or oftentimes if it's coming up to a weekend, it's going to, they're going to be hard pressed to change it out. They'll change it out before, the end of the shift or whatever. That leaves chlorine in the bottle, so we're wasting chlorine. With a dual scale, it will automatically switch from one to the other when it runs out, and we can go out at our leisure and just replace the cylinder. So it's going to save us money in the long run for not wasting chlorine and not having to worry about whether it's going to run out of chlorine in the middle of the night, that sort of thing. So it's going to make it easier overall. And then the last one is some improvements needed and repairs down at the Long Mesa building. We need to put a new roof on it, repair of the siding. There's holes in the siding in different locations, and repainting it, and that cost us about $26,000. So the total out-of-scope service agreement with OMI is right around $114,000, and that's what we're proposing to do. So I guess I would answer any questions you might have.
Rick?
I'm just curious, how long have we been in that Long Mesa building? It seems to me it's been a number of years.
We bought it during, I think it was like at the downturn. When
I believe we purchased that in 2007, 2008, right around in...
about 10 years.
And it was a well-used building when we purchased it, and we got a screaming deal on it.
Right. No, I remember that. I was just curious how long it's been, because it seemed like a really long time.
Good. Other questions, anyone? No other questions?
No questions?
Did a good job, Neil.
Okay.
I appreciate that. And I guess you can bring it back to us.
I will do that.
Great. Okay, we move on to number 6. Discussion, wastewater treatment plant purchase of supervisory control and data acquisition equipment. Another SCADA discussion.
Yeah, so this is actually the purchase of the equipment that was associated with the labor and materials that we just talked about in the out-of-scope services agreement. So I think I already talked about some of these advantages about the cloud storage, the ability to have the SCADA update the remote sites, and additional higher processing speeds. So that's why we're buying this equipment. What it is typical equipment that you can buy from Dell. As you'll note, and I mentioned it earlier, that the cost of these are not your normal types of computer servers. These are $6,000 a piece. We're buying 2 of them so that one acts as a backup to the other one. If one goes down, we still have the second one maintaining it. And so that's $12,000 of the $20,000 cost that you're about to see. There's 3 new workstations. Those are the remote workstations that are out in the plant at various areas. Those are $1,000 a piece. And then there's various related equipment. So even though $20,000 sounds like a lot of money, it gets eaten up pretty quick with this expensive equipment. We are doing this through state contract pricing, and total cost is $20,949.01, and that was it.
Questions, anyone? No?
Okay.
I think, Neil, you're doing a great job.
Okay. We've actually put this one on consent next week, but the other 2, the out-of-scope and the Victorian States, will be on the regular agenda, unless you'd like to see this one on the regular agenda as well.
What would be the choice? That's fine.
All right.
Go ahead. Good job.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Okay, we have one other item, and I know everybody hates that. That's item number 7. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.